Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you feeling today?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. What about you?
I'm very well. Thanks for asking me back. Welcome to the IELTS speaking simulation. My name is Haidir, and today I'm going to be your examiner. Before we begin anything, would you please tell me your full name?
My full name is Hilary Bidang.
And what
I'm
can I
fro-
call you?
uh, my full name
Yes.
is Hilary Anjali Natasha Bidang.
And what can I call you?
You can call me Hilary or Hill. It
Mm.
depends.
Okay, Hillary. Do you work or are you a student?
Currently, I am a student for the foreseeable future
Mhm.
and
Uh,
hopefully for foreseeable future.
Hillary, there's some echoing or something. Would you please test again your microphone?
Okay.
Check, check.
I think I need to go to
Now it's
settings.
clear. Now it's clear.
Okay.
All right.
Uh,
We're going to start with the first part, uh, which is gonna be about you. Okay, I'm gonna ask you more about personal questions. First thing first, let's start with uh, home. Let's talk about home and housing. Do you live in a house or a flat?
Well, currently, for the few months that I'm here, I'm staying at a boarding house. But if but a permanent stay that I have is with my family, and they own a house in the middle of a city.
All right. Overall, which one is your favorite room?
I spent more time, in my house and specifically in my room, which is located in the third floor of the house. So that since the time I've spent there is, far more than the times I've spent in any other rooms, that's the one I'm most comfortable in.
Mhm. Can you describe the place more? Your bedroom? How does it
My
look like?
bed, excuse me.
How does it look like? And yeah.
Uh, well, it's honestly pretty normal. It's mostly taken up by my bed because it used to be my grandparents' room. But my grandfather passed away, so my grandmother sleeps with in the same room as my brother. So I'm taking their room. But it's just a bed and then a TV in front of it, and then a table, my desk next to it, and then a wardrobe on the other side of the room, and that's the big part.
Wonderful. If you could improve one thing in your house, what would it be?
If I what
If you could improve one thing in your house, what would it be?
I think, well, it's not really a problem about my house as much as it is a problem in, Indonesia in general. But I think the temperature inside of my house just makes it really hard to do a lot of things comfortably outside of my room. Because if I have to sit down for, a long period of time, I prefer it to be, pretty cold or at least a little bit chill.
And so, how can you solve that problem?
Well, that's probably well, I this would probably cause a lot of, environmental damage, but adding a lot of ACs
Mhm.
is my suggestion for the time being. But I think a better alternative would be fans because at least it's a little bit cooler.
Okay, Hillary, would you please try to put your microphone like this? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's try it that way.
Okay.
Next, let's talk about films. Do you enjoy watching films?
Yes. From I like watching a lot of films, especially ones that are, foreign films because I find that they tend to be more interesting than domestic films.
Okay. What kinds of films do you like most?
I don't really have a specific genre that I enjoy. I tend to like it depend on the plot that it has, but I tend to lean towards animated movies, or at least action movies of some kind, because at the very least they're entertaining no matter what.
Hmm, I see. Did you watch much TV as a child?
Yes, when I was a kid, I didn't have phone for the most part of my life, so I watched a lot of TV and specifically a lot of cartoons.
Okay. Foreign language films popular in your country?
Yes, they are. They are very prominent in theaters everywhere, and especially in like just normal homes. If people tend to, get drawn towards the domestic films, no, not international films, because they probably felt that it's more exotic, I guess, than the normal Indonesian films.
Understood. Next, let's move on to talk about greeting people. How would you greet someone who was visiting your house for the first time?
Well, I'm not really an extrovert, so I don't think I'd be the best at greeting someone. But I think I just greet them normally. Just get them a place to sit, maybe provide some sustenance if there's one available really closely, and that it doesn't disturb their stay. Normal things like that.
Awesome. Would you greet an old friend and a stranger in the same way?
Yeah, probably I would because I don't really tend to discriminate between people. Well, I guess a little bit. Maybe the small talk would be friendlier if we've already known each other for a longer period of time.
Mhm. How do you meet new people then?
Uh, I wouldn't specifically say that I go out looking for people. If I just meet people, then I just meet people. That's that. I'm I'm not an extrovert.
How do you greet your friends then when you have an appointment outside?
Well, I guess through chatting apps, WhatsApp or Discord. You know, I don't really call them or try to visit their homes much.
I see. In this topic, do you think first impressions are important?
Personally, for me, yeah, I guess so. It's a lot of my view towards someone is colored by how they seem to me or how they appeared the way that I first saw them as. Maybe it could change, maybe it couldn't. It really depends on how the person carried themselves as.
All right, that is the end of the first part. Let's continue on the next part, the second part. Would you please prepare a piece of paper and a pen?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. In the second part, I'm going to give you a topic to talk about. You will have 1 minute to make notes, and then you will need to speak for 2 minutes about the topic and answer all the questions provided in the cue card. Okay, I'm going to share my slide then. Can you see the cue card already?
No,
What
not
about
that. Speaking part two transcript.
no,
I haven't seen the questions yet. Can see.
this one?
You should say where you went.
Oh,
It's it cut off at where you went.
I see where you at. Okay. What about now?
Okay, yeah,
This
it's
one?
clear. Yeah, it's visible now.
Can you see the sample answer?
Yes,
Oh, what about now?
it's visible. It's a little bit visible. The sample answer is visible. The first line.
What
Okay, now it's
Okay, it's not
yeah,
visible
no,
anymore.
yeah, it's yeah. Only
Uh,
the questions.
Only the questions. Great.
Mhm.
I Want you to describe a holiday you recently had. You should say where you went, who you went with, what you did there, and why you enjoyed it. Don't worry about the time. I'm gonna time you anyway. You have 1 minute to take notes. Start from now. Time is up. Please stop writing, Hillary. Now you have 2 minutes to speak about a topic and answer all the questions provided. You may start speaking now.
If it's a vacation that I've recently went to, well, it wouldn't really be recent if I could like if I counted a vacation which I went abroad with my family. That would be years ago, and I don't think it would count as recent. I I just tell about the vacation which I had from school after graduation, in which my family, well, I say my family, but it's just my mom and my sister. She took us to the theater to watch a movie that she wanted, that she, I think she want to watch it because it has Jackie Chan starring it. I didn't really enjoy it at all. Honestly, I find the movie really unpleasant. It was a waste of money, and I didn't because like the thing about the movie is that it was very hypocritical because Jackie Chan, the way he was portrayed in that movie, he was like a caring father that you know tries his best to understand his kids, but the real Jackie Chan doesn't give a damn about his children. He let one of his kids starve in Canada, and he refuses to, give financial aid to his other kid. And so I find really distasteful to, to watch a movie about him where he's portrayed in that light, where even though the truth was like something much farther and honestly kind of sinister because that's the image he wants to portray, and that's the image that you as his fans are supposed to enjoy. But outside of the movies, I it was pretty typical outing because we just had lunch, and I think it was just some food court there. Wait, no, it's yeah, just some restaurant there. So it
All right,
was just a normal outing.
time is up. Thank you so much for that story, Hillary. Let's move on to the final part, which is none other than the third part. Okay. In the third part, I would like to talk more about holidays and traveling. If you had a chance to travel anywhere, where would you go?
If I could go anywhere in the world, I would probably go somewhere in the northern hemisphere, preferably Canada, as they have, much more lax rules. And I want to go, somewhere in the north because again, I like the cold. I have never experienced winter in my entire life, and I would just want to experience it. And it's also been, you know, proven that Canada has a better quality of life than Indonesia, my current country. So I would love to travel there someday.
Okay. Hopefully, yes, in the future, one day. Next, why do you think some people like to travel alone?
Uh, I think a lot of people, for a majority of people, traveling alone saves the hassle in which, you have to organize with a lot of people, especially if it's your own family, where you're the one who's supposed to organize for a lot of people. But other, uh, keeping in contact and making sure you have the same schedules, it just it becomes a chore rather than a vacation at some point. So I think a lot of people would just prefer to, set things at their own pace and pick their own schedules, their own preference of hotels or other accommodations, things like that. It's just their own pace.
I see. Do you think travel has changed much over the last few decades?
If you're counting decades, then yes, obviously it has changed very significantly. Planes weren't as prominent or uh, even exists if you like count count a few decades back. Actually, a few hundred years actually, I think. But it has become more widely used nowadays, and especially in recent years, as people try want to visit a lot of countries. I think also, the way people travel, as in, what they see when they travel, is like a lot of hotels specifically designated for tourists and for people to enjoy instead of just uh, people having to look for a place to stay in general.
Okay. Next, how does travel change people, you think?
Oh, I think the experiences that people get would be the biggest part of how someone would change from traveling. You know, I would say if it's a negative experience that someone had while abroad, it would change them much more than a positive experience, because people tend to discount positive experience as just a normal thing, but they tend to internalize negative experiences as something of a tragedy even. But I think, yeah, I guess it boils down to the experiences that they had and the people that they've met.
Mhm. Can you give me one example of the changes? Or what kind of experiences are you saying? Are you referring to?
Uh, I guess it depends on what purpose they were traveling for in the first place. If they're just traveling for leisure and they had, a negative experience, they could be more jaded towards traveling in the future and try to avoid it in the first place. If it's for, studies, then they would, you know, learn more about the place, about their field of studies and the location in which the study takes place in. That would definitely change them a lot.
Understandably. Last question, Hillary. Do you think there are any disadvantages to modern travel?
Ah, I think the biggest one would probably be the cost. Uh, the traveling time, how many hours it would take to travel. I think it has really been made so much more efficient, especially with the plane developments in planes. And I think the travel accommodations have also improved. The tourism and the tourist boom in the tourism industries. I don't think has changed much, however, or actually has changed for the worse is probably, the cost of travel, costs of packing and costs of, buying renting a hotel room, or cost or even a cost of buying a ticket. Those kinds of things have changed significantly in recent years.
Do you think that cost should be more affordable for the tourists?
I guess it depends, because if it's high, then people would, be less likely to be go out for a vacation in a tourist hotspot. But if it's, cheaper in another location, they might be more inclined to go there instead of polluting other places.
Very well. Thank you so much for your answers, Hillary. That is the end of your final test today.